Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Jurassic World Rebirth release. As you can see, we have another Takara Tomy figure. This is the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and I'm really intrigued to see what this one looks like. You can very clearly see, looking at the packaging, it is definitely a newly sculpted T-Rex from Takara Tomy, which is exciting because they do tend to recycle their Tyrannosaurs a lot, but obviously they went ahead and gave us a new version for Rebirth. As far as the packaging goes, pretty much the standard. You've also got a card with these newer figures, which is really exciting. You can see again some images on the side. Totally different type of a shot here on the back, kind of a different angle and stuff. And then another shot of the T-Rex over here. So let's go ahead, pop it open, and check it out. So first of all, we have the card, which you can see again does have that really cool Rebirth T-Rex. Again, it's weird that you see so many like gray versions. I don't know if they changed the design or the colors or what for the T-Rex prior to the release of the movie, but you can see most of the Tyrannosaurs look gray, and that's exactly the same case. Also, actually, you have the back of the card again, pretty much the same as what we had seen on the Spino, but that's exactly the same case as this T-Rex. It is a gray, and the version from the film is more of a brown, so that's interesting that we continue to go with this grayish color scheme for a lot of the Tyrannosaurs, like the Mattel Power Devour T-Rex, their super colossal version, are all the gray color, but the one in the film is actually not gray. Weird. But you can see the figure does look pretty cool, and I would absolutely say has got to be one of Takara Tomy's best when it comes to their Jurassic Tyrannosaurs, because it's just so big and bulky and intimidating. It is super cool looking. I'm going to go ahead and readjust the camera so we can bring it in and get a closer look at it. The one thing that is a little lacking, though, on this figure is the detail in the face. I'm just so used to the newer Tyrannosaurs that have been released for Rebirth, minus the Sound Surge version, having super impressive fine detail, especially in the face. Like all of the Mattel versions have had unreal detail that very nicely match the version you see in Rebirth, but this one has kind of lackluster detail. Not that it looks terrible, it looks okay, but it's not nearly as nice as it is on the Tyrannosaurs that you actually see in the film or on any of the other versions that are out. Also, the teeth are super sloppy. Just like with the Spino, the paintwork is just very, very intense on this, overbearing pretty much, and you can see it runs up onto the jawline and everything all over the place. They just put way too much paintwork on the teeth of this T-Rex. You also have a yellowish tone, which might be a little too yellow. We do have a yellow for the eyes as well, which I think does look pretty decent. We have a gray for the majority of the face, but then you do have some darker tones, like darker grays up and over the top of the head right there. The jaw does articulate. It closes pretty nicely and opens really quite wide. We can get inside the mouth there and see the tongue sculpted out and painted. If my camera focuses on it, you can anyway. Painted with a pinkish tone. There you go, and you can see the detail on the inside of the mouth. Looks okay. Everything is painted with a pinkish tone on the inside of the mouth. Oddly enough, the teeth actually look a little bit better as far as the paintwork goes on the inside of the mouth, which is really strange. But it looks okay. It's just not great. And when you do close the mouth, there is like this weird gap right here that does look very off-putting. Definitely looks a little awkward right there. But as you move up, you do have the ears sculpted out back here, which is something that's super cool to continue to see. You know, a lot of the figures releasing as far as this T-Rex goes do have ears sculpted out. I don't know if Rexy just didn't have ears or if nobody ever paid attention to them, but like the new Mattel Tyrannosaurs have ears, and clearly this version from Takara Tomy does as well. As you move down along the back of the T-Rex, you do have a striping, which is pretty much classic Jurassic Park T-Rex looking. You also have, again, the grayish tone following down. The detail does look really nice, actually, once you lead into the body. I think the skin texture and scale detail might be some of the best I've ever seen from Takara Tomy as you lead down, which is definitely very nice to see. You do have the bulkiness here in the throat of the T-Rex as well. You have a lighter tone, kind of, on the underside, just a different shade of color, kind of like a light greenish tone, or like, it's a weird tone of color, but it does move down along the underside of the Tyrannosaur. The skin detail as well down here looks really quite nice. You can see the claws are absolutely gigantic on the hands though, unfortunately, so they look super awkward, but they are painted at least. The arms are held into the body in the correct fashion. Again, we don't have like pronated wrists or anything, which is nice. They look a little awkward as far as their sculpting goes, but it looks okay in the grand scheme of things, I guess. Moving up into into the body, again though, the skin texture does look super impressive as you lead through. You've got very nice scale detail as well as skin wrinkles and folds and stuff as you move back and move the leg back a little bit. You'll see a little bit more of that, of course, exposed once the leg moves. You do not have any arm articulation at all, but obviously you have leg articulation forward and back. As you lead up, you still have that striping effect moving along the back. We have the spinal column following along down. You can see the musculature of the thigh looking really good, and in general, the entire leg has a great sculpt as far as the muscle definition goes. Very big bulging calf muscles, nice defined musculature throughout. You've got the kneecap right there in the front. As you move down, you can see the shin, and you lead into the foot sculpt, and it definitely has a really nice Jurassic Park style or Jurassic World style T-Rex foot sculpt with some scoots down the toes, and then we have the claws sculpted out and painted. The claws look a little bit better for the most part on the toes, but not so much on the dew claw. They are painted, which is nice, but they do still have a very rounded and awkward look. And then we move up into the tail, and yes, we couldn't get away from the ball joints with this line. Again, Takara Tomy has included those on these figures. So you do have articulation as you lead out into the tail, but it's not the greatest because each and every area does have that separation with the ball joint. But it could be worse, I guess. And if you are a Takara Tomy collector, you're very used to the ball joints at this point. And again, it almost becomes kind of part of their charm. But of course, I would definitely like it if they did not include that and just had straight up like regular articulation somehow in the tail. Not so much like the Spino, but that did kind of look a little better in some visuals as far as the lack of ball joints, but kind of awkward. The ball joints do look weird, but it does make the ability to pose the tail at least a little bit smoother than what you saw on the Spino. But you do have that lighter tone moving along the underside of the tail, but it does end about halfway through before you lead out, and then you only have the grayish tone, and you still have the striping moving along the top of the tail, which is nice. And again, you do have a bit of a thick ending to the tail. It doesn't come to a nice point either, unfortunately, but it does have a little bit of a curve to it, which is again, pretty nice to see, which you can see. Once you line the joints up, it does look pretty cool as far as the curve goes. The biggest difference over here is, of course, going to be the positioning of the leg. The T-Rex seems to be taking a really big step here. The legs are quite far apart. And overall, again, does look pretty cool as far as its pose goes. It looks very intimidating and almost kind of replicates the look of the T-Rex as it's like right about to kind of head into the water for the river raft scene, which is really cool. The leg over here looks really nice as well. And again, the tail does articulate with the ball joints. I kind of forgot to show that to you. You can go up and down, but if you twist the ball joints and then move the tail back, it sometimes is a little tricky. You can now get more left to right. It takes a minute to try to get it there, but you can then get a left to right movement as well with the tail. A little tricky when it comes to those ball joints, but they do serve a purpose, I guess. And it fell over. I gotta try to rebalance our Tyrannosaur back out. I can definitely see this one potentially being a problem in the future with the balance. It doesn't stand as solid as the Spino did. As far as a size goes, for a length from the tail to the snout, you are looking at about 6 3/4 inches or around 17 centimeters. And then for a height in the position it's currently in, just a little bit over 2 1/4 inches or around 6 centimeters, almost on the dot. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to our Tyrannosaurus Rex from Takara Tomy. And in standard Takara Tomy fashion, you can see the figure is quite small. The best comparison I could probably give you is with a few other Takara Tomy releases. So here is the Jurassic World Rebirth Parasaurolophus, which honestly is probably one of the nicest figures Takara Tomy ever released, next to the T-Rex, showing you that the T-Rex is definitely a bit larger. We've also got the classic Jurassic Park 3 style version of the Spino that looks like it's about to fall over because it doesn't balance well anymore, but clearly it's a little tiny bit bigger than the T-Rex. Then once you bring in the Ceratosaurus, you can see they as well are pretty similar in size with more bulkiness to the Tyrannosaurus. And I would like to think that at this point you've established that there is no actual scale to the Takara Tomy figures, because here is the Allosaurus staring the T-Rex pretty much right in the eyes. And then for one rebirth comparison, we also have the Spinosaurus, which we've already reviewed here on the channel, next to the T-Rex, again showing you how these two size up next to each other. So this brand new Takara Tomy Jurassic World Rebirth Tyrannosaurus Rex is actually quite cool. Again, I would say it's probably their nicest T-Rex they've released so far, but it does, of course, look a little bit awkward and ugly in some cases, like the ball joints in the tail are, of course, not everybody's cup of tea, but specifically when you close the mouth, I don't like the gap that you have up there in the lower jaw connecting to the upper jaw, and specifically as you lead back under the eye area, it is really quite obvious and a little bit ugly. Past that point, though, I would say it's definitely one of the nicest sculpted Tyrannosaurs from Takara Tomy. It also has that really cool, big, like, beefy and intimidating look to it, which I really love. The fine detail in the face is a little lacking, especially in comparison to many other more recent Rebirth Tyrannosaurs, but the detail in the body definitely makes up for that because it looks a whole lot better. It does have some okay paintwork, but nothing super impressive, just basically like the grays, the striping, and then a little variation of color on the underside, but at least we have claws painted all over the place, even if they are rounded and ugly as well. It does feature some articulation, like the jaw, both legs, and the tail in 2 different spots, but again, we've got those ugly ball joints, so not everybody's going to like the articulation in the tail. Either way, if you are a fan of Takara Tomy and you really enjoy their products, you're definitely going to like this T-Rex. If you aren't a big fan of Takara Tomy, then I think this one might be one of those figures you need to kind of like maybe grab and see in hand to decide if you want to purchase more from them, because they all kind of have the same similar style and feel. But I absolutely enjoy this figure, and I'm really happy to now have it in my collection. Thanks again to the eBay seller that I purchased this from, who is based in the United States, which makes, again, purchasing this really quite convenient. So if you are interested, I will include a link in the description to that eBay seller where you can grab this T-Rex and add it to your collection right now. So check that link, definitely pick this up, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.